cool tank video. A tank?
Wild bird's eye view of a Ukrainian tank facing off against a Russian T-72B3 and 3 enemy anti-tank guided missile teams targeting that Ukrainian tank.
Fuck?
The Russian tank pushes forward along the Ukrainian trench line when it hits an anti-tank landmine that explodes right underneath it. It was a mobility kill. The T-72 is unable to move. Its track has been destroyed. That's very bad for the tank's health when that happens. The TM-62 is the most common anti-tank mine. It uses a brute force explosion, often not enough to penetrate the armor, but it has no problem blowing.
Why don't they have a metal detector drone fly in front, or have attach a metal detector in front of the thing with like a broom? You put like a big plank with a metal detector in front, like this, and if it zaps, beeps, you don't move forward. It doesn't. Well, if it did have it, it wouldn't have blown up.
The tracks off, which explains why the Russian tank crew inside survived the hit. In between them is a fortified trench line that loops all the way around. This is where a squad of Ukrainian soldiers have taken cover from the armored tank duel. We see a Ukrainian infantryman pop out of a trench here on the left of the screen, just about 25 meters away from the tank, and they brave it. They fire an RPG shot at the disabled tank, going for the final finish him style kill. Before we get into the crazy ending of this tank footage, this video is sponsored by Pepperbot, but the RPG is fired wide and misses the tank completely. It explodes to the right in the field about 150 meters away. The adrenaline in a moment like this.
Chat, just a comment check, guys. I'm only watching this chat because the guy like this in the chat. Okay, I'm watching because I've been playing a battlefield, and I main the tank. I'm a tank main. Okay, I'm interested in the logistics and the overall tank.
For a soldier who's firing like that is a major factor. That and not wanting to jump out of cover of a trench for too long,
like the logistics, the engineering.
The Russian tanker exits his vehicle, briefly checks the status of the tank, not aware that he's still under fire from very close range, and it appears like he takes off his kit and he's able to escape right off camera to the right unharmed. It's unclear if he was the only one in the tank, but it seems likely. In the background, 20 meters behind the Russian tank, we can see Ukrainian soldiers moving through the trench line, trying to get an angle on the Russian tank, but they don't see that the crew has escaped. This is when the Ukrainian tank opens fire. The round impacts the disabled, empty Russian tank, and you can see bits of it ricocheting and hitting all around. It appears to have been an anti-tank round instead of a high explosive one, because we can see the munition exited straight through the Russian tank, went straight through and impacted about 100 meters to the right off screen there. We actually just see the smoke hit kick up. A T-72 fires a 125mm APF SDS round, which is essentially a high-velocity dart moving at 1,700 meters per second. That thing is flying fast. The Sabo peels off mid-flight, and the tungsten or DU penetrator hits the enemy tank. When it pierces the armor, it sends spalling fragments from the armor everywhere. It's partly meant to either shred the crew inside or disable the tank. It's capable of going through around 700mm of armor depending on conditions. In this case, it impacts the weaker side of the Russian armor, just below the turret, which is likely around 50mm of protection because it's pretty weak there, but it could be upwards of 120mm. We zoom out and see the Ukrainian tank is in a bold move near the trench line. It's extremely rare and unusual to see armored units moving this close to a trench even when this footage was recorded in May of 2023.
Yeah, they could
the
get
first thing that
RPG'd.
stands out to me is this is an intersection with 3 high-speed avenues of approach, which makes it a very dangerous kill zone. The positioning of those Russian anti-tank teams is perfect for an ambush. The Ukrainian tank then at this point begins to take heavy fire from 3 separate Russian ATGM teams. These are anti-tank guided missiles.
What the fuck?
3 smoke clouds kick up where incoming missiles miss their target.
What the fuck are they aiming at?
The tank scores a direct ammo hit on that shot, and the enemy tank's rounds begin to cook off inside, sending a giant flame jet up into the air. They're able to fire at about 6 to 8 rounds per minute with...
How is it guided if they're missing by fucking, like, a quarter of the fucking distance? Like, look, I'm confused.
Then the first of the 3 Russian anti-tank guided missile teams fires their Kornet missile at the Ukrainian tank. The first round misses. That missile impacts the ground about 50 meters short. A piece of missile actually bounces in front of the tank, as you can see there, which is crazy. The second Russian ATGM team fires a missile.
COS is actually
missile strike, and it hits the tree stump, and we see that activates the jet stream of its shape charge. The warhead is then detonated and it fires a high velocity metal copper jet, which we actually get to see here in real time. That copper jet, that smoke cloud that's pluming forward, is moving extremely fast at about 7 kilometers per second. Watch what happens here.
Jesus,
it's
what?
absolutely crazy.
Huh?
Extremely close call with that anti-tank guided missile, just barely misses the Ukrainian tank by a few feet and then hits the ground next to it. Then the drone tries to fix the location of where those Russian ATGM teams are. The next battle just happened last week in the town of Seversk, where Russia's offensive has so far been stalled. It shows even in the world of drones, tank-on-tank violence still happens. You can see the Ukrainian tank on the bottom left and the Russian tank on the top left of the screen. The Ukrainian tank spots the Russian turtle tank and chases after them. They're getting intelligence from the drone that's watching them overhead. This battle shows us there are pros and cons to having overhead drone
What the fuck is this?
protection like this shed tank that Russia's using. The cons are that it has limited visibility and limited turret mobility. The Russian tank cannon is stuck in one position facing forward with maybe 40 degrees of visibility directly in front of them. Take a look at this battle geolocated to the exact field in Seversk that this happened in. It's tough to tell from the drone footage, but the terrain between these two tanks is a forest patch that the Russian tank cannot see over. The Ukrainian tank takes one shot, which explodes with a giant display of sparks on the turtle tank. The Russian tank begins to reverse, with a huge plume of smoke coming out of it. The munition that the Ukrainian tank fired is a heat round, meaning high explosive anti-tank munition. Just based on the fireball and sparks on impact, that's what suggests that this is heat. Unlike Sabo rounds, they deliver a shape charge with that focused explosive energy. What you're looking at here traveling at the enemy tank is the 3BK-18M, which is one of the types of heat rounds fired by the T-64. Upon impact with the enemy, a nose fuse triggers, and then the explosive charge with that penetrative jet of high explosive molten metal just shoots straight into the tank, killing the crew, creating spalling everywhere. It also just destroys a bunch of the interior of the tank and can set off munitions. Generally speaking, the pros of this type of tank ammo versus your APF SDS is that the heat is effective at any range, so its penetration doesn't degrade over distance because it's not relying on kinetic energy. It also has a multi-role purpose, so gunners can use it against soft targets, which is my favorite euphemism for humans. Sometimes I call my friends, I'm like, hey, you soft targets want to come over tonight? If I had friends. This was the first ever recorded instance of a Ukrainian tank destroying a turtle tank because tank-on-tank violence is so rare nowadays. And then in the next engagement comes from the point of view of an on-board camera attached to a Ukrainian tank from the 25th Brigade that were fighting in the tree lines of the Kherson region.
Because they doesn't know when they're gonna. Appears to be. Yeah, I get it, because it's kind of slow. They probably know that they're coming. They can see from afar, or whatever, and they just do like anti-tank, like mortar shit from like way far back. Whatever. They wouldn't risk a tank to go tank, and they could just get from way far back. 2022, most likely from when they were initially retaking the city of Kherson. The commander of the tank is looking around trying to spot targets of opportunity. Visibility in this region is relatively good, so they fire 6 shots at a tree line that could be a couple. What about a drone that drops some termite onto the thing, like what he said,
clicks away, and we see their autoloader in action. Ideal engagement range, given limitation of some optics, is about 1,500 meters, but they can push out further than that, although this engagement we're going to see gets much, much closer than that. Here is where it gets insane, though. A Russian column of vehicles starts heading straight toward them. It's like a mad dash, crazy sprint forward. The gunner opens up with the Dishka, which is like a 50 caliber machine gun, and the tank starts backing up in reverse. Typically, the reverse speed on T-72 tanks is relatively slow at about 4 kilometers per hour, but that's not always the case. It's unclear why they don't open up with their main tank gun, but it seems like they might be out of ammunition or the system is down and broken. We're not sure. So the Russian column of artillery, Ural supplied trucks, and infantry is headed straight at the Ukrainian tank at this point at point blank range. This shows the fog of war at its finest, I think. Complete chaos and confusion of where the front lines are, where friendly forces are. Also, when both sides use the same type of equipment.
Even in a tank, you would feel a 50 cal for sure, no? I mean, not every bullet would pierce depending on the angle of it, right? But you wouldn't feel it at all? None? Even automatic 50 cal chain gun?
this type of thing is bound to happen. The first truck is able to run the gauntlet. That Russian truck, it makes it past the Ukrainian tank. The second Russian supply truck, dragging some towed artillery, it looks like, also tries to drive past. Then an incoming round appears to hit the Dishka machine gun, and ammo starts to cook off, exploding everywhere. Or it might have just been a round cooking off from overheating from sustained fire. Either way, the gunner starts reloading the ammo right away, and we get this really awkward moment served up to us where the tank gunner makes this awkward eye contact with the Russian supply driver as it moves by just 10 feet away. What happens next in quick succession is wild. An artillery round hits 50 meters in front of them, unsure if it's friendly or enemy. Then a Russian MLTB, which is like a tracked vehicle, also tries to pass right in front of the tank of the Ukrainians and has some infantry riding on top, so they're actually taking shots with their AKs. To the right, directly in front of the tank, you can see Ukrainian infantry firing rounds at those Russians. Then an incoming round hits the top of the Dishka machine gun, and you can see in slow motion the gun gets rattled and the gunner takes cover inside the tank. That footage really shows how unpredictable war can be sometimes. Your main gun goes down, your second gun goes down, you have no idea who is who, it's just wild.
But this is
the next engagement is some high definition drone footage of a tank duel. Here, 2 Ukrainian tanks are laying in wait behind the tree line for the 3 Russian tanks to show themselves.
Yo, I'm mad at the fact that their shit is scuffed. Like, they can't fire the bomb. Like, what the fuck are they doing even in the field? They can't fire the shell,
communication with the drones that's overhead, which is giving them a full picture of the battlefield. And the first thing that stands out to me is that today, all these tanks would be droned pretty hard straight to the face by now. The tank takes 3 quick shots.
Jesus!
Knocks out 2 of the Russian tanks, while 1 of the Russian tanks escapes. This next battle is footage that was posted on United 24 Media's channel originally. It shows a column of Russian armor moving down in on an assault. It's made up of 3 tanks for the firepower and...
So what if you have one of those jet planes that drops bombs, right? Or just drones, thermite drones. Brum.
4 armored personnel carriers that bring the infantry. The old tactic back then a few years ago was for the Russians to regroup in a village before they would launch their attack. So we see here the Russian tank with the arrow next to it is being currently targeted. A Ukrainian armed with a Western Javelin missile launcher fires from about 2 kilometers away, and then the missile travels there. And boom, the top-down explosion in the background is that tank getting knocked out.
Jesus! Dude, chat, I thought Battlefield was scuffed when the shit explodes off the top and the hat goes off. But dude! What the fuck? Look at the hat!
There's a lot to be learned from this next firefight, though. It's actually a Russian assault with over 100 armored vehicles, maybe one of the largest armored mechanized assaults ever.
Okay, this is a little bit crazy. Chat, guys, anything to do would be crazy like that. Chat, I thought it was just gonna be, guys, the first video was empty tank. Boom. These tanks are moving and shit. Like there's people in there.
Caught on camera. It starts with 20 Russian armored vehicles preparing for the push. They storm forward, trying to get to the 0 line, and their goal is to destroy the Ukrainian trenches. But the problem is, there's only a few avenues of approach for them, which creates these choke points. And we can see here is where they're staged, and here are the 4 different avenues of approach that they're going to take to the front. But Ukrainian forces have already sighted them in ahead of time with artillery and javelins.
Isn't it going to risk each other to send that much equipment in one spot? Like, what if they knew they had this many, and they just didn't attack, and they waited a little bit more, so they all stack further up, and then boom!
53
at that point, they can't even go back anymore because they got baited.
Drones became prevalent. One of the cluster bombs hits directly on a Russian tank, and more of the roads are blocked off by more and more destroyed vehicles. What follows is footage that I think reveals a ton about armored combat and how it's changed to nowadays, because this has become so rare and has been entirely replaced by infantry assaults this year. It's an absolute slugfest. We can see there are rows upon rows of Russian tanks getting taken out by HIMARS attacks, artillery. The Russian tanks push forward, get
Hello?
knocked out, and it causes a whole column to get stopped dead in its tracks. Russian tanks with mine clearing equipment push up to try to avoid those mines, and they try to clear a path, and we could see a Congo line of other armored vehicles attempting to push forward and getting stuck.
Okay, this is
same
awful,
exact
chat.
thing happened to the Ukrainian
I feel like being a tank operator is like a death sentence. Like,
Bradleys when they tried assaulting well-prepared defended position as well. It's just not possible in today's day of drones and precision artillery and missiles. The next engagement comes to us from Syria during the 2024 retreat and the end of Assad's
okay, check question.
forces.
Sure,
We're looking at
in today's day and age, if you put all the weapons, if you have all the intel, everything we know about human civilization as a whole, are tanks really an efficient piece of tech these days? Is a tank actually good?
rebel
The
drone
tank
cam
is shit.
footage here. We see
It's
the trucks
it's
highlighted
literally
in
some
green and the
dog
Syrian
shit.
rebels chasing Assad's troops. The guys highlighted in red on the right side of the screen are fleeing forces. A platoon of rebels with a BMP-1 T-72s has them in full route just chasing after them, and a machine gunner in the back of one of the pickup trucks opens fire on an enemy truck that got lost and stuck behind them and got separated from the unit when they were being overrun. The truck tries to pass on the fast lane, but just absolutely.
Okay, I'm not watching this. This is gonna dank. Okay, that was interesting. I was gonna say cool, but interesting. I'm not watching that. Anyway. Yeah, we can do some skylines. How about that? Play RimWorld. No. I tried like last time check is I didn't enjoy it. Because I like RTS games. I think RimWorld kind of sucks. I gotta say, it's just not my game. What does it? Oh yeah, I should finish Expedition 33. I'll set a date for it then. Chat. It's just a date to finish a few games. Yeah, I saw that you linked that in the chat. Chat, is this real and true? Chat, is that an anti-tank termite drone?